Does Lupe Fiasco out-rap Kendrick Lamar's catalog? What is the difference between a rapper like Lupe Fiasco and a rapper like Kendrick Lamar? I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm Sean Longevity with Bringing Down the Band and the New Old Heads podcast. This is my Unpacked series where I typically go deeper on New Old Head segments. That's exactly what this is from, I believe, episode 492. 492. This conversation started because of Lupe's kind of continually like dragging Kendrick Lamar in a variety of different ways, saying that he's not in the top 100 favorite rappers of him and stuff like that. Well, we talked about it back, 3 weeks ago. So let's touch on this a little bit and go a little bit further. We've talked about this in the past, but Lupe Fiasco is not impressed with Kendrick Lamar lyrically. Lupe has said multiple times that he wouldn't even put him in the top 100 or whatever, right?
Damn. That's hate.
So, well, maybe.
Big hate.
Again, we talked about this like a year ago, but this kind of resurfaced. And I don't know if this had anything to do with the fact that King Green, shouts to the Rap Latte guys, he made a video about breaking down what lyricism actually is from an MC's perspective, and all of a sudden this started popping up again. So I don't know if there's anything. I think actually, after we shot this, I believe actually this is true, because the video that the guy who interviewed Lupe, where this kind of blew up again, I believe he was reacting to King Green's video. So there is actually direct correlation there. The video here, if you saw, there's a guy named Koala Tea who interviewed Lupe because apparently Lupe was in his comments when he was talking about some stuff, and they brought him together and they were talking about it. So this is just a small clip of it.
Lupe got on stream with a YouTube personality named Koala Tea. His channel is Koala Tea Reacts.
And that's Rob Markman.
Looks like they went on live for about 3 hours. The conversation turned to Lupe Fiasco and Kendrick Lamar, and Lupe Fiasco doubling down on the claim that he has been making for years, that he believes that he's a better rapper than Kendrick Lamar. Now, during his talk with Koala, Lupe did say that he thinks there's hundreds of rappers better than Kendrick, but he also said that he believes that Kendrick is a better artist than him. Keyword, better artist than him.
You're going to have to say, I'm talking about just purely battle rapping. I'm not talking about albums. I'm not talking about making songs. I'm not talking about being an artist. All things that I've said all these years. He's a better artist than me. He makes better albums. He has a better team. He has better beat selection. He has better production, right? He has all of these better things, right? When it comes down to lyricism, when it comes down to these lyrics and putting these bars for bar for bar for bar, no. Everything else, for sure.
With that, if we separate technical rapping, rhyme schemes, wordplay from overall artistry, album structure, sonic cohesion, does hip hop history ultimately value the master artist over the master lyricist?
I think there is value to both, but
yeah, I think
when I think about somebody who's just a master lyricist, somebody who where if you just put them in a room and it's time to rap and you got to make a show out of rapping, or there has to be a spectacle of just lyrics and the ability to rap, maybe no music, no dancers, no lights, no nothing, then that to me is KRS-One. But
I mean, that's Lupe.
I mean, and honestly, I would draw parallels between them.
Right.
But if you're talking, like I think he was honest and saying, hey, every other category he's got me beat. And I think that's very accurate. Every other category he does have Lupe beat.
Yeah.
But as far as like somebody where I'm consistently having, or someone having to rewind, or someone will say, did you hear this? Did you see how he tied this to this? Or he used this as the thread to tie the first verse and third. Nobody does that better than Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah, he's an amazing lyricist.
Like I said, I don't know if, like, when he put out that album and he's rapping about dinosaurs, I don't know if I would even be engaged if anybody else did that. But I listened to that Lupe Fiasco project where he was rapping about dinosaurs.
Yeah, he raps from the point of view of like a professor. But like Jay said, if truth be told, if lyrics sold truthfully, lyrically, I'd be Talib Kweli. This is Jay speaking from his point of view of being a gifted artist that can rap, sell records, have production, all of the things that Lupe pretty much brought up in his conversation there. So I think both of them are important to be a lyricist and to be a good all-around artist. But in order to know how to tap into being a good all-around artist, you have to have some kind of lyricism about you as well. I would think it's not a focus on the lyricism, so to speak, but there are artists that have their own pocket or own lane that can thrive in that lyricist lounge type of, you know what I'm saying, situation or songs that they're making, because there is a crowd or a fan base for them.
Preferences.
But if your sole purpose is to be more popular and to be heard by more people, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to pick the overall artist pocket versus the lyricist pocket if you know how to do it. Yeah.
And to me, man, Lupe is very good. He's just too damn good. You know what I mean? Like, that project that he had where he was rapping about like slaves in the ocean or whatever. Like it was a great song. That project was good, but at the same time, I'm like, how many times am I going to listen to this out? You know what I mean? I'm never going to come back to this. I don't have an interest in coming back to listen to this.
I think that's another good point about lyricism and the fandom and how people listen for different reasons, right? Some people I had to learn this early on. Some people listen, and me being a producer, you know, MC, all those things, somebody who's made a lot of songs, but like, you know, I'm somebody that I need the whole package to like it. Some people don't need the whole package. Some people don't need the mixing to be good. Some people don't need the beat to be good. Some people don't even need the delivery to be good. They just need the lyrics to be there. And depending on what you listen for specifically and the intent changes how you enjoy things. And that's always fascinated me, how people can like some absolutely like what I would consider just shit executed songs, but because somebody is just liking the way the lyrics come together, that like they consider it a good song. It's always been weird to me. I feel like, man, go listen to poetry or something. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's important here.
He said it was his words, dumb it down, and he never did it. You know what I mean? Like he came back and he was just hitting people over the head, just keep it going over people's head. And that was the problem.
I will say, though, I've always felt that Lupe is done for somebody who I like the complexity. To me, as an artist, I feel like I'm doing really well if I can offer up a complex idea to where the people that want to catch it get what they came there for, but the people that just want the vibe also get what they came there for. So it's almost like you can listen from two different perspectives. I feel like that's winning. And I to be honest, I feel like most of the time, Lupe I feel like he's kind of successful in that for me.
That's the difference between why Lupe didn't really go to the way he was supposed to, because he never really dumbed his music down. He was always going over most of his consumers' head.
So does it, again, to the question though, so does hip hop history ultimately value the master artist over the master lyricist?
Yes.
That kind of says yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing about this particular conversation is both of them are omega level threats, just to get into some nerd shit. As far as what I consider to be lyricists.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do I think there's an edge for Lupe? But it's not at this wide chasm, in my opinion.
I think it is.
But I don't know. But I think part of it is because Kendrick doesn't, you know, he still is like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's not like, okay, I'm going to bar you up and have you, you know, sitting with your thesaurus to try to figure out what I said so you could perhaps use it as a thesis.
So he has, so with that, the difference here, I think, is their approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lupe is very much, no, I'm going to give you this masterful piece to where, like, I'm going to make you think, even if you don't want to. Sometimes I feel like Kendrick intentionally keeps it simple for the general artist in general. Like, I think he's really good at understanding what the line is to where, like, I can be simple with complex ideas. Whereas Lupe is kind of doing both. Now, I don't, I really think that that's a really good point about Kendrick. And that's one of the reasons, like, when he came out, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be big in hip hop. He's got that trajectory. And I love that about him. I love the fact that he could sneak stuff, as Mike always says, sneak something in the applesauce. I always appreciated that about him. And it never felt like too dumb, you know? It never felt like that, but I don't feel like Lupe does that really at all, though. Not really. He does it a little bit with his, like, he brings things back with his choruses, but I don't necessarily agree that Lupe doesn't have the type of work and material that Kendrick has. I think Lupe's first two albums are right there.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I stand by that. I feel like Food, Liquor, and the Cool are just as good as any two albums that Kendrick Lamar has done. I stand by that. And I'm a really big Kendrick Lamar fan. Like, you know, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, Section 80, Damn. Those are four really, really, really good albums. But I think The Cool and Food and Liquor are right there. And he's got other stuff after that too that I like as well. But those first two, They stand with anything.
But then he shot himself in the foot.
Yeah, lasers.
Maybe, but at the same time, but it doesn't.
label.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean like Lupe's quality of work is still immensely high on like everything he's done. But his first 2 albums, I would say he's a masterful artist as well as a masterful lyricist.
Yep.
You know, even the record where he rapped kind of the same verse twice on it, you know, with 2 different perspectives of it. You know, like that was his way to kind of like simplify it in a way, you know. And so I feel like he's, out of all the super duper Lupe lyrical artists and spawns of his and things of that nature that exist, I feel like he does a pretty good job in general of balancing that line for how crazy he is with how complex he is.
I think he was better early on in his career. Even when you think about his ascension, his first song that the masses heard him on was Kanye West.
Touch the Sky.
Touch the Sky. Yeah.
That's the first time people heard him, and that created a buzz amongst what he was already making online. And then to follow that up with
Cool.
Food and Liquor. And then the Cool, he was on his way. And then whatever happened between him and his label, and even the single that he dropped for Lasers was fire. But to me, it didn't match the overall vibe I think I was looking for.
It wasn't even on the
Lupe.
album.
It wasn't. I don't even remember.
Nah, it wasn't on the album.
Yeah, so I think that album is what kind of shot himself in the foot as far as continuing his ascension, and he kind of blamed it on people pirating. I don't know if y'all seen that.
Well, remember, Food and Liquor was so. I had Food and Liquor for months.
Yeah, but he's saying to say that though, a lot of artists were pirated during that time. So he was in a show pretty much blaming people stealing his album.
I don't actually disagree with that though. I feel like that probably had a big, because he was such a unique. Look, when I first got hip to Lupe, like he was big on mixtape. He had a lot of mixtapes too. And when I first got hip to him, I was downloading his mixtapes, but then I also was like, oh, he's got an album too. You know, it's like, okay, let me check that out. So I've already so it's like he was in this weird like pocket of like when he emerged that like, yeah, it's kind
all 3 of those albums.
It directly affected him. I agree with that. It's kind of a unique Lupe thing in a way, but I don't disagree with him.
Not as a whole, but to say that your career fell off based off of that when you gave us Lasers.
Well, I mean, again, we know the history of Lasers, right? So
I mean, he gave us good projects.
I feel like that's not fair. I don't feel like it's fair to use Lasers against him. I don't. Because he didn't have the same type of infrastructure around him as a Kendrick did with TDE. You know, I'm just saying.
After that as well, but it just nothing ever got to the level of those first 2.
Sure.
You know, so everybody
momentum.
Yeah, everybody was looking for something comparable to those first 2 projects, man. And unfortunately, he just never gave us anything of that quality again. And I can't say blame it on production because I don't think he was working on those other projects. I don't think it was anybody different aside from like Pharrell. I don't remember him.
I think it was momentum. I think sometimes we downplay how important momentum is in life, you know, and being able to continue that momentum up. You know, it's the one thing that I love to preach, but momentum of continuing things is so important. And Lasers kind of broke that momentum a little bit, you know.
Only time I remember him working with Pharrell was on I'm Beaming.
Yeah,
those albums had a good balance of education, bops, and mainstream appeal.
He's also just one of them artists that he came out of the gate so hot.
Yeah, people forget, or maybe they don't, and they just don't think about it when they talk about Lupe. He had a tremendous amount of commercial success for that era.
Yeah,
you know, he had songs that were played a lot.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
You know, I mean, even songs like "Dumb It Down" had videos. You know, he was able,
Save Me.
Yeah, Hip Hop Save Me, Paris, Tokyo, Superstar. Like he had records, you know, that played on TV and on the radio and wherever you were, you heard on a pretty regular basis.
Still get played out right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I program a lot of Lupe just into the place in my restaurant, you know, just because, hey, I need to hear it. Sometimes I throw a few in for me. And Lupe is a part of that wave.
Yeah, I think when just kind of we can move on to the second question, but I think, do we value the specific trait of being one of the greatest skilled MCs and lyricists in that particular? Does hip hop, from any perspective, put that above?
No, because the crowd has changed. So the people that have their ears on hip hop aren't listening for the exact same things.
I think it depends. You know, when we talk specifically about the culture of hip hop, I think it depends. Like if we separate it from the rap music industry, I feel like there are You know, I feel like there are a group of people that definitely value the lyricism that Lupe brings and will always value that above the level of something like what Kendrick does. And that's not to demean Kendrick at all, you know, but there will always be people that will look at how Lupe checks off so many boxes and they will always put him atop that.
People originally were. So you have people that have welcomed hip hop to their ears.
And so I guess what I'm saying is hip hop isn't necessarily a monolith in that particular type of way. So maybe it's a little bit of a trick question.
That never listened to lyricism. Like their introduction to hip hop might have been a poppy hip hop song, and they never felt the need to go back and listen to how did it evolve this way. It's one of the same arguments people have about when you talk about Drake and Kendrick. A lot of the people that don't like Kendrick, like we're talking about how Lupe is more lyrically inclined than a Kendrick is, and Kendrick is still lyrical. And people say they don't want to hear that. They would rather hear what Drake is doing, you know? So I feel like when it comes to the masses and the people that listen to hip hop over the years, it kind of shifted.
And I guess the way I was framing that question was more so less about who listens to hip hop music and more so the culture in general. But again, I guess what I'm saying is like, oh, hip hop is different from that person.
I think ultimately, man, hip hop is a what have you done for me lately business. You know what I mean? And
I'd argue hip hop isn't a business.
Fans are fickle. So if you're not coming with it, like 3000 said, my favorite group ain't coming with it. You know what I mean? So it's on to the next one.
That's fair.
So I think, and if you're not coming with it, the hip hop will forget about you.
Yep.
I think which one is valued more? I think you guys both alluded to it. It's who you asking when you ask them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I brought up KRS-One as somebody who's valued, you know, as a straight up lyricist, and as somebody who can move crowds with just his voice and maybe nothing else. You know, but then there are people who have a supreme value for, say, Method Man and Redman because they're able to perform his songs and perform them in a way, or Busta Rhymes if we're going to compare, you know, a single artist to another solo artist. I mean, those are both solo artists, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a situation to where sometimes they just mean different things to different people depending on the moment they're in. Yeah. You know, so it's a kind of hard way to say which one we value more. And look, I mean, I'm not just saying this because you're here. You know, there's a different value we have for someone like Hammer, who just put on such a great show and can still perform at a level that's probably well beyond his age. And, you know, for all the flack he caught back in the day, we have a value on his ability to entertain us.
It was entertaining.
Facts. Let me scroll through some of these comments real quick that we got here. What do you say? I'm sorry I don't know everybody's names here, but what the brother in the Mets jersey, Jay Moore, said about Lupe won't dumb it down. I think that comment highlights the difference between how these two artists see their audience. Lupe would say dumb it down, while Kendrick would say meeting people where they are. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I agree with that. New Meezy, shouts to you. Shouts to Dooley81. Seen Dooley81 comment a few times. I wouldn't even say Lupe's music goes over people's head. He makes literal masterpieces, but it's just for a limited audience and one-dimensional. Lupe stated himself on the live stream that he has no interest in connecting with consumers of his music and has no other. And as another commenter so eloquently stated, Lupe feels he's mentally superior to his listeners and behaves as such. I mean, some of the ways that Lupe kind of responds is interesting. But I think he does go over people's heads. I mean, if I'm gonna be real, I think a lot of his stuff, look, I pay attention to stuff. Sometimes this stuff goes over my head, you know, like I can just acknowledge it. And I don't know. I mean, like I understand where he's coming from, but I don't really think that he's one dimensional, you know. I think his first two albums kind of disagree with that, but well, it's all good. Lupe raps for himself while Kendrick raps for his audience. Okay. I think people just think of one facet of lyricism when they say Lupe is better than Kendrick. That is a good point. That is also a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Then, yeah, he's got a big long thing here. Lupe was mad disrespectful, and these clips are crazy without context. But in the end, Lupe is great, but Kendrick is just him. He's got to get over it. I don't necessarily disagree with that. And maybe he has. This is a little bit old. You know, this is 3 weeks ago. Lupe suffers from the same disorder that a lot of old heads suffer from, and that's not knowing how to sit down and let the next generation shine without butting in and being disrespectful. Dudes are sitting up here talking about albums that came out 20 years ago. All right. I'm not really sure quite what he says you miss the entire purpose. I don't fully understand the purpose of what he's trying to get at here. I mean, because I kind of agree with some of it, but I mean, they're very close to this. I mean, there is a different generation between the two, but it's only by like half of a decade. So I don't know. I don't even mind just new music. She said, let's go to somebody new. Kendrick Lamar is not the spawn of Lupe Fiasco. What? Y'all mad bugging a couple years separate the two. Kendrick just makes better music. Nobody said he was a spawn of Lupe Fiasco. Nobody said that. A couple years separate the two. That's what I just said. Kendrick just makes better music, plain and simple. Lupe lyrics aren't that complicated to go over people's head. It's kind of like the Dan Brown Da Vinci Code Lyrical Miracle. For all things Lupe said Kendrick has is better than him is cap. He could choose better beats, better team. He still hasn't done it. I hate this type of comment, if I'm going to be honest, because it's just intentionally trying to just bring somebody down. I don't, because even though he says this, I disagree with this. I don't think Lupe chooses worse beats most of the time. I don't. Maybe there's a better team involved in some, but I didn't even 100% agree with Lupe on it. So Tetsu and Youth is considered Lupe's best album of his fans. Yeah, but it didn't have the impact because he had lost the momentum. Tetsu and Youth is good. I like it, but Food and Liquor and the Cool impacted in such a way beyond Lupe's fans. It's how people became fans. It's why you are even here saying that Tetsu and Youth is considered his best album. And I would argue that even though it is great, I don't think it's not on par. I don't know, it is good. I don't know. What you going to talk about next? Painters versus Picassos? Lupe wants a participation trophy. There's no part. Just so you know, goof ass motherfucker, we are a nuanced hip hop talking show, and we have been for almost a decade in a couple months. And so, yes, we may talk about Painters versus Picasso. That's what the fuck we do. The point is to be a great artist, which is what Kendrick has done better than him. The sad thing is Lupe, actually a successful mainstream artist himself, he just doesn't know that. Picasso was better painter than folk who just paint, but he just has some canvases. All right. Shouts to Brooklyn Zoo for another show. That's true. Rap is all about now. Lupe is right. A few things when it comes to Kendrick versus him. But he has albums that have well-thought concepts. That is very true. Kendrick's concepts are super consistent, and I think that's also what's super on par. Lupe does too. Who is hip-hop and who are rap fans? Yeah, that's something I like to talk about. Lupe is to Kendrick what Jamar is to him. Who is Lupe Fiasco? He never was the main thing. Don't hold ish. You don't know what you're talking about. You're either young or stupid. One or the other. Or ignorant, right? Lupe is selling himself short. I think he is too. I think Lupe is selling himself short. I do. I do think he's selling himself short here. Can't relate, buddy, saying when he will never go back to Drogas Wave. I listen to it all the time. I like some of Drogas Wave. Yeah. Ransom is better than Kendrick. All right. I'm happy you feel that way. You know what I mean? Anyways, yeah. That's that conversation on Lupe and Kendrick. I don't know. This has had time to simmer. What do you guys think? I'm Sean Longevity with Bringing Down the Band and the New Old Heads podcast. And August 25th, 2026 at the 808 here in Indianapolis, we're going to have our 500th show of the New Old Heads. Go ahead and book your Airbnb. Come to Indianapolis. It's going to be kind of an open show. We're just going to talk about 10 years of doing this and then open up the room for questions. Going to have a DJ to start. I think Brother to the Night's going to start the night off. Might even be doing some ticket raffles, things of that nature, to a festival that's happened later that week. But yeah, come check us out, or check out the New Old Heads even further. Become a Patreon member for $5 or for $10 and get in our monthly raffles and support the show. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time. Peace.